Welcome to Mystical Messages. I am Hilary Harley, your podcast host. I am a soul guide and astrologer. Mystical Messages is your podcast gateway to discover and learn more about the realm beyond the veil, including all things intuitive, metaphysical, and the healing arts. To learn more about my work or to book a session with me, please visit hilaryharley.com. If you would like to read my monthly forecast, you may find the full written transcript for all astrology episodes on my website. That way, if you hear something and want to re-listen to a forecast or to check a date of a cosmic event, you may find it on the written monthly forecast on hilaryharley.com. Today, I am so delighted to have the epically cosmic Jill Jardine, fellow astrologer, veteran of the stars and what they mean, veteran astrologer, and my esteemed colleague, Jill Jardine. And welcome, Jill. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, Hilary, thank you so much for having me on. We always have a cosmic explosion when we get together and start doing our forecasts. And I think we have a pretty high accuracy rate too when we do these podcasts projecting out into the future months. So thank you for inviting me back on again.
I agree. It is rapport like second to none with you and me breaking down the astrology for 2024, the first half of the year ahead, 2024. And we're going to take this one step at a time. Before we get into it, I just want to let everybody know if they want to look at your website, learn more about you, to book a session, an astrology session. You also do Vedic astrology, is Jill Jardine, Jardine, astrology.com. And you also have a podcast, Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, that is available on Apple and Spotify and Buzzsprout and all the major outlets. So welcome, Jill, and let's get to it. Starting with January 2024, what do you have? What do you think this looks like coming up here?
Well, I looked at all the months, and if I'm going to track out, and put them into categories, there's three that I think are going to be the more challenging months of 2024. And January falls into that category, and I'll explain why. And just for your future forecasters, the other time period that could be a little challenging due to eclipses, January is going to be a little bit up and down for other reasons, is going to be the end of March into early April. And pretty much April, there's some interesting energy, which we'll get to. And then we're not going to cover the September into October 2024 time period, but that's also an eclipse window. So that should be challenging. So those 3 months, which means we jump right into it in January 2024. And the exciting thing that we can celebrate on New Year's Day is Mercury's going direct in Capricorn.
Yay!
We all kinds of, travel cluster during holiday season. We're going to get a forward signal to start the year. And it's funny because 1-1, Mercury goes direct, and then 1-11, the new moon in Capricorn. So we get all these directives from numerology with the ones, 1-1 and 1-11 for new beginnings. So we'll be able to roll ahead with that. But then there's going to be some energy on the horizon as we get to the second part, and it's all Aquarian based. We're going to go into Aquarian airspace, and this Aquarian is kind of psyched, but it may be a little, maybe a little turbulence for the non-Aquarians out there. But on 120, on January 20th, Pluto goes into Aquarius.
Woohoo!
It's going to be a fun ride as it conjuncts the sun in Aquarius. So that's a tight conjunction from about the 20th of January through the 23rd. So especially if you have any planets in those early degrees of Aquarius, you'll be feeling that Plutonian purging, pushing, and pulsating through your life.
For sure.
And we have a full moon at the end of the month on the 26th, which is the full moon in Leo, Sun in Aquarius, early degrees again, 5 degrees Leo. And then Uranus goes direct to put the cherry on top on January 27th, the day after the full moon. That could be a little bit of a chaotic time, to put it lightly.
Yeah.
So, and I can give some more details, but I'd like to hear if you concur with that.
Yeah. So I definitely think it's nice, more than nice. It's a breath of fresh air to have Messenger Mercury, the planet of communication, pushing ahead on day one of the new year. That really helps in terms of moving forward, resolutions that we make, getting a win behind our back, but it can have some, you want to watch if you're traveling. There's always a little bit of a snafu, especially in the winter months. If people are traveling by air, you just want to allow extra time on New Year's if you are traveling, because there can be some travel issues. Whenever there's a planetary gear shift like that involves travel, especially as Mercury does, there is definitely a power duo this month with Mars and Venus, both entering Capricorn through mid-February. And they take turns aligning with Jupiter and Uranus in Taurus. So I made notes that this is really about getting your task list done, because these are master manifesting earth energies, able to help us accomplish some pretty heavy lifting. But as you pointed out, January 20th, Pluto does re-enter the sign of Aquarius. Pluto is the transformer. It is about power, shared resources, the shadow, anything that isn't readily seen. And it's been dancing back and forth between Capricorn and Aquarius for quite some time. All of 2023, it was in, it was out. And now, as of January 20th, it re enters Aquarius, as you mentioned, on the very same day that the sun enters Aquarius. So that is a power duo for sure. And 1 week later, as you mentioned, Uranus, which is the change agent, it's never an easy retrograde shift or shifting direct. With Uranus, it changes gears. And in Taurus, we're still looking at our values and our skills and talents and how we earn and resources and the climate. So those are dates to watch. But as a reminder, all planets will be direct from January 27th through April 1st. So that is really helpful for getting projects, starting relationships, businesses, ventures, anything that you want to move forward with.
That's always fun in the beginning of the year when we get that at some point before they start going ding, bling, bling, bling. I think a real go time. I mean, it's so interesting how the month starts, and it's very much Capricornian. Let's get back to business. Let's get things done. Let's climb those mountains in the single bound. And a lot of things that kind of got waylaid for people, especially in December because of the Mercury retrograde. A lot of things that they wanted to start that just couldn't happen for them will get going. And yeah, you're right with the Mars and Venus trining. I mean, I saw that Mars is trining Jupiter, Mars and Capricorn trining Jupiter and Taurus the day after that new moon on the 11th. So that's going to put some dirt beneath people's feet. You can get some traction with that. But then we go from a very Capricornian January to like flip. We're now in Aquarian airspace and things can get a little wacky. The Pluto going in the same day as the sun, as you said, there may be some interesting surprises. And the other piece is at the very end of the year, right after the full moon on the 26th, we've got Uranus direct on the 27th. Uranus is the ruler of the sign Aquarius naturally in astrology. So that could be like a little bit of like people thought they were going to go one way and then it's a pivot, 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 really
Redirect. Yeah.
like I wouldn't call it like abort the mission, but it's going to be like, oh, real find that rocket ship you're trying to launch here in Aquarian airspace. So January is going to be quite an interesting month. People won't really, know how the year is going to be playing out until further into the year.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it's a major time of being on a launch, feeling like you're on a launch pad, but where are we launching to? Are we launching to Intergalactica, or are we launching to our, just down the street, our neighbor's house? Now we're into February, which, as you pointed out earlier when we were talking, that this is like catch your breath month. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yes, because there's not that many aspects, what we call aspects in astrology, which are like, uh-oh, I got to get prepared. The big news in February, early in February, is the new moon in Aquarius on the 9th. Yay! Aquarian new
Yay!
time. And for any of your listeners who are into crypto, for the last 3 years, I have been always predicting, oh, crypto is going to start taking off around the Aquarian new moon, and it has, even though if it's been short term some of the years. But I think that it's going to pick up some stride before that. So people are interested in, and anything alternative that you're interested in, I think we're going to see a lot of things pick up. Alternative healing, alternative consciousness. That's going to get a huge boost on around early February, and then the Aquarian new moon on the 9th, and then that launches into Lunar New Year of the Dragon.
Oh, right. The Chinese New Year. That's right.
Be a fun party weekend if people are trying to plan festivities. The 9th, 10th, and 11th of February looks like it's going to be really fun, and it actually kicks into Mardi Gras, which is on the 13th, the day that Mars joins the Aquarian cosmic party. It goes into Aquarius on the 13th. So that mid-February looks like it could be really, really fun. I mean, that's actually before I think the traditional school vacation week. Then it comes down a little bit with some Piscean energy as the sun goes into Pisces. People are going to be more sentimental, more feeling things kind of deep. And that sun is going to conjunct Saturn at some point too.
Right. At the end of the month, for sure.
Which will be a kind of an awakening or a come to Jesus or Krishna moment for people. And then we have the Pisces full moon on the 24th. Well, it's a full moon in Virgo, 5 degrees Virgo, sun in Pisces. And I noticed that for the first few months, all the full moons are happening at 5 degrees, which is very interesting. I don't know if people want to know more about 5 degrees in numerology. It definitely indicates change. So
yes,
including the eclipse, is happening at 5 degrees. It's going to be a changeable year next year. I think we're going into the future where we've been recovering from the past and kind of cleaning and releasing. I think people are going to start seeing what is coming next in their lives. And certainly as the collective with the Aquarian Pluto for the first few months, and especially in February, there could be some very pioneering groundbreaking activities going on collectively that, wow, I feel they would be very good. They could be regarding energy. They could be regarding anything really. I think sustainability, I think the environment, we may be having some really nice forward progressive inventions or forward thinking activities getting in place here.
Yeah, for sure. I noted that in February, most of the month is dominated by 7 planets in just 2 signs. They're either in Aquarius or Pisces. And, as you noted, the Aquarian planets at mid-month, this is highly innovative, inventive. And let's not forget humanitarian, brotherly concern, sisterly concern, for our fellow human being. And the Piscean element, when planets like the Sun and Mercury join Saturn at the end of the month of February. This is, I love your term, not just come to Jesus, but a Krishna moment for sure, because this is about believing, and it definitely has to do with spirituality. Antidotes to this are being around, on and around near water, listening to music really helps to soothe what's going on. But being concerned for our fellow inhabitants of the earth, not just human beings, but also all animals, all creatures that dwell on the planet.
Yeah, and you know what will be interesting? I mean, when souls incarnate, we have to remind people that Aquarius is the 11th sign, so the final air sign, and then Pisces is the final 12th sign of the zodiac, final water sign. So when you're seeing charts with a lot of Aquarius and Pisces, basically, I mean, in my perspective, I think you're going to see a lot of advanced souls incarnating around that time in January, late January, February of 2024. It'll be interesting to see. It also would provide a window for people to leave their bodies too, because it's like of, let's say, this incarnation. So we're going to have some advanced souls incarnating, a lot of people leaving. I mean, that's usually true around eclipses. So we're going to hit the eclipses at the end of March. But I would say a lot of people who are complete with this process, so to speak, in their bodies in this lifetime might be leaving around that time as well, February of 2024.
Right, right. No, I totally agree. And as a reminder, this clear energy pattern without eclipses, with not a lot of planetary shifts going on, without any retrogrades, that's February and most of March. As we enter the month of March, this clear energy pattern continues until about the the equinox, the spring equinox around the 24th. So do you want to talk about what's up for March?
Yeah, so with March, you're right. It starts and it's sort of relatively okay, some nice fallout from the month of February. And we're still in Pisces energy. So I think there's going to be a lot of awakenings, people kind of having realizations. I noticed that at the new moon in Pisces on the 10th of March, that Saturn is conjunct both the sun and moon, very close to the sun and moon.
Wow.
Daylight saving time. So I think people are going to have awakenings. I think that they're going to, spiritually, I think it's a fabulous time for people, to go to the next level or try some things that can help them, because then the very next day, after that new moon in Pisces on the 10th of March, we've got Venus going into Pisces too. That will continue that thread of water, internal, connecting with source, connecting with your soul, what's coming next, intuition, all quite mystical, almost mystical, having visions. And it feels really probably cozy until we get into, the other piece I have to say about that there. So that's a lot of water. My sense here in New England is that the winter is really, for some reason, I don't feel it as strong as January, but I feel it's going to be pretty strong there. Kind of a late winter, late February and into March, especially with all those water Piscean planets. I think
for sure.
Wet, snowy time here in New England. So then the equinox is arriving early on the 19th of March, International Astrology Day, when the sun goes into Aries. Shifting things for sure, because then we're getting into the eclipse window. It's a week away, and we're going to have that full moon lunar eclipse on the 25th. And again, it's another one at 5 degrees. So it's 5 degrees Libra, moon and sun in Aries. That could sort of disturb any kind of balance, and I think it's a collective thing. The thing that the nodes are actually transiting in Aries and Libra, which is why they happen in the same sign. So I just feel like if there was a balance, there could be another collective shoe drop that could get people a little bit, you know, on edge regarding something. And it's interesting because then Good Friday and Easter come very late in March on the 29th and the 31st. So hopefully the spiritual influx around the world with that would kind of calm whatever this martial or this disturbance in the fourth eclipse Libra balance scales getting disrupted will happen. We also have a Uranus Jupiter conjunction on that same day. I sourced out. I realized that that's the beginning of the Uranus Jupiter conjunction starts coming in. A little bit. I mean, it's really strong in April, but we start feeling some of that unexpected stuff at the end of March there, especially around that full moon.
Yeah, for sure. So, just as a recap for everybody listening, the first eclipse of 2024, eclipses are neither bad nor good, but especially if they connect or impact a planet or angle in your chart, you can feel this a lot more. But as the first eclipse, it's a full moon lunar eclipse on March 24th. Some people will experience it on the 25th, depending on your time zone. And it's occurring at an early degree, 4 degrees of Aries and Libra. And so Aries is about initiating, pioneering, trailblazing, but it can be impulsive. And it's, ruled by Mars, the god of war. The moon will be in Libra, about relationships, striking a balance in all areas of our especially having to do with any geopolitical turmoil that's been going on. And as Jill pointed out, Jupiter and Uranus have been sort of dancing back and forth in the sky in the sign of Taurus, which is about values and our skills, how we earn. It's definitely about the climate, our resources, both internal and external. And so they're coming together right around the time of this first eclipse. So it can be a real jolt to the senses. Definitely some big awakenings for sure. So just to watch for that time, the end of March, and perhaps lay low.
Yeah, and so then that's going to complicate April a little bit. And as I said, the top three disturbed months or the top three more challenging months are January 2024, April, and then September into October, because April will have the fallout. We enter April with the fallout of that lunar eclipse that happens on the 25th of March. And guess what? We
Ta-da!
start with April Fools. It's Mercury retrograde again. April 1st to 25th. So that's people are just kind of recovering from, wow, that was an intense eclipse and Mercury retrograde all month, basically. And then a few days later, on the 8th of April, it's a solar eclipse in Aries. So, as you said, all those things about Aries, the martial, it's ruled by Mars, it can be more aggressive. But something's getting eclipsed. So I feel like that's, if there was an attempt to do something aggressive somewhere in the world, it actually wouldn't go through because it gets eclipsed. And something's revealed. There's always revelations around lunar and solar eclipses. Information that was previously withheld or not disclosed can come forth. So I think that's a good part of this solar eclipse on April 8th. And then, as we were talking about, it warms up for that. I mean, I track that Uranus-Jupiter conjunction with a wider orb, like a couple degrees from the 18th through the 13th through the 23rd of April, like 10 days. So after the eclipse, and the shorter orb is from the 18th to the 22nd. But, it is about money. It's about resources. I think there could be some news about the economy that, gets revealed after the eclipse. So there's something that could be a shock to some, maybe not to others, but it's some new initiative or new directive financially. It will be a very interesting time there from early April, like the whole month. We do get some spiritual juice in on the full moon. It comes early. The full moon is April 23rd with the sun in Taurus, moon in Scorpio. It's known as the Wesak Festival. It's celebrated Tibet. It's a very high spiritual moon. So the fact that that's coming in right after whatever the shock waves are on April 23rd, it will be like, oh, okay, here comes the light. And then Mercury goes direct on the 25th. So I think the end of the month, like the last week, is actually probably a lot better than the earlier part of the month.
I totally agree with that. I mean, I would say from the eclipse in March on the 24th all the way through um definitely through April 8th with that total solar eclipse, Mercury going retrograde on April 1st through the balance of the month. I mean, through April 25th. And that's a more than long, longer than usual in my estimation. Mercury retrograde, it's a full 3.5 weeks. So, that's going to be a time to really review and maybe hunker down a bit. I know it's springtime and people are eager to get going, but that's a bit of a doozy, that stretch of time. And definitely April 26th and beyond, it calms down, and we're going to need that calm energy at the end of April as we enter into May. May 2nd, Pluto turns retrograde, and normally we don't feel those outer planets when they turn retrograde. But it's something to notice that that's how the month of May launches. So just, otherwise it's a relatively clear energy month with no inner planets turning retrograde, no other significant planetary gear shifts. And there are 4 planets in earthy, practical, pragmatic Taurus for the first half of May, which is really helpful to ground, plant any ideas, projects, businesses, certainly gardening, which gets going in May, but, think of the garden of your life. What are you trying to plant? All creative endeavors, anything innovative.
Yeah, I think this May, I mean, the last couple Mays, the last 2 years, it was an eclipse month, so in 2022 and 2023. So in 2024, May or Taurus is not going to be affected by eclipses. So I feel that it's going to be in our favor for sure. The month does start with Pluto going retrograde, but at the same time, I notice when it retrogrades in Aquarius, it's going to square Venus in Taurus. So that could be a little bit of some kind of like, something pops up, or again, there's a focus on the financial markets or financial situation in general, economics, economy. But then, the new moon in Taurus comes, and like you said, it's very stabilizing because we've got Sun, Jupiter, Venus, Moon in Taurus. Mercury goes into Taurus too. So that is kind of, a calming, soothing. Yeah, so because Mercury's in Taurus by the 17th when Pluto squares it again. So there are some minor Pluto squares to personal planets, Mercury and Venus, but I don't think they'll be too disruptive for people. And then we've got that nice full moon in Sagittarius on May 23rd, Gemini, Sun, Sagittarius full moon. And so now by May, we're off of the 5th degree of these full moons and we're 2 degrees. That one's occurring at 2 degrees. Yeah, it was 4 degrees of Scorpio in April, and now it's 2 degrees full moon, which means that full moon's we're moving toward the blue moon when we're gonna have oh no, not necessary, but we're gonna have not a blue moon, but we're gonna have a full moon occur in the same sign 2 months in a row. And that does happen. That happens June and July. Because we'll get to June, and we're going to end at June. But yeah, May seems like it's going to be a calmer month. People get to integrate whatever went down in March and April. And yeah, there's some consistency. There's some planting of seeds, as you mentioned, Hilary, because we're in the earth sign of Taurus. I think there's an acknowledgement of the planet, of the earth, of the climate. Earth Day does fall in April, but there's sort of, I think whatever directives showed up they're going to be followed through. And May should be much, I think, just so calm compared to the last 2 years when it was the eclipse month.
I agree. It's definitely a breath of fresh air and time to get out and earth and dig in the soil. And, even if you're not a gardener, just be outside in nature and soak up all of what the beautiful planet Earth has to offer. And June starts relatively calmly again. All the planets there's no major planetary gear shifts going on until the end of the month. There is the solstice, the summer solstice on Friday, June 21st. But it looks to be a pretty clear month. The only planet that is retrograde during June will be the outer planet Pluto. And it's a month into its retrograde, so we're not really going to be feeling a gear shift there.
Yeah, I think June's going to be kind of fun, especially in the beginning. The new moon is falling on the 6th. That's the Gemini new moon. It's like right around the time of high school graduation time. So there's a lot of socialization, it looks like, in early June for sure with the Gemini energy. And, I think a lot of excitement. We're 2 months out from eclipse time, so people are definitely planning their summer. And the summer isn't afflicted by eclipses at all. I looked forward into the summer. It didn't seem as complex as previous summers, but again, a lot is the integration of what went down in the earlier part of the year. And then we've got the solstice, like you said, and the full moon on the 21st at night here on the East Coast in Capricorn, which, as I said, that's a full moon on the 21st into the 22nd. But
which is right on the solstice. So that's really exciting.
So it's fun when there's a full moon at the solstice because it's a lunar. Well, the solstice is traditionally a solar festival, and then full moons are considered lunar festivals. So we're going to be honoring both the sun and moon. And Cancer is the sign of the moon. So it's kind of nice that we're going to have that going on in June. And there is also going to be, so that's at the very first degree of Cancer, of Capricorn, when the sun's in the first degree of Cancer. But then there's another Capricorn full moon on the 21st of July at 29 degrees. So that will be interesting. I think that's sort of a wrapping up of business, because then we're also going to have Pluto going back into Capricorn too.
Right.
On September 1st. So there's sort of like still some completion of the earlier cycles, and we may get a little bit of insight into that around the solstice and that full moon in Capricorn on the 21st. But the rest of June seems pretty calm. There's not a lot of planetary activity except for when Saturn does go retrograde on the 29th, which, is, people tend to feel that one. It's like that, we're shifting gears down now.
Right. And in Pisces, it's reflective for sure. Right. So thank you. My guest has been Jill Jardine, the amazing, epically cosmic Jill Jardine is what I call her. She is my esteemed colleague, and I'm just honored to know you and work with you. And you may find Jill at Jill Jardine Astrology, and Jardine is Jardine, JillJardineAstrology.com. She also has her podcast of many years, Cosmic Scene with Jill Jardine, that is available on all the major outlets, Apple, Buzzsprout, and Spotify and Google. So thank you so much, Jill, for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me on, Hilary. Always a blast.
Yeah, it really is. I feel like we're the dynamic astrology duo in New England. So that brings us to the end of this episode of Mystical Messages. To learn more about my work or to book a session with me, please visit hilaryharley.com. If you would like to read my monthly forecast to check dates of planetary events and cycles, you may find the full written transcript for all astrology episodes on my website. Thank you so much for listening today. Please join me again when I will be bringing you the forecast for January 2024. I wish you many blessings as you journey forward.